I want to read you one sentence I said publicly yesterday after returning from Asia. The United States can no longer be relied on to fight to defend its interests. I did not write that as a political opinion. I wrote it as a first-hand observation after spending 30 days traveling across Asia. 10 of those days inside China, speaking directly with the leaders, the investors, and the decision makers who are reshaping where the world's money flows right now. And that one sentence, the conclusion every single person I spoke with reached independently, has a direct financial consequence for every dollar you own. A consequence that most American financial advisors have never warned their clients about. Because most American financial advisors have never spent 10 days inside China speaking with the people who are making these decisions right now. I have. And what I am about to show you in this video is the most important first-hand financial intelligence I have ever shared publicly. Not historical analysis, not data from a distance. What I personally saw, heard, and concluded from 10 days of direct observation inside the country that is reshaping the global financial order faster than most Americans understand. Stay with me through every single minute of this video, because at the halfway point, I am going to reveal the one specific thing I observed in China that immediately changed my own personal investment positioning when I returned home. The one thing that made me say publicly that Chinese markets look very attractive right now. The one observation that directly contradicts what most American financial advisors are telling their clients. Do not skip ahead. What I show you first makes the halfway revelation land with the full force it deserves. Subscribe right now. What I am about to share comes from direct personal observation of the most consequential financial shift happening anywhere on Earth right now. Let me start with a moment that changed everything for me on this trip. I was sitting in a room in China with senior decision makers, people who control significant capital, people whose investment decisions move markets, and I asked them a direct question. What has changed most significantly in your view of America over the past 5 years? Every single person in that room gave me the same answer without hesitation. We no longer believe America will show up. Not we no longer trust America. Not we prefer China. We no longer believe America will show up. That specific phrase, from multiple different people in multiple different conversations across multiple different countries during that 30-day trip. A complete, unanimous, operational conclusion that the United States of America can no longer be counted on to honor its commitments when honoring them becomes costly. Now, I want you to stop and understand why that conclusion is the most important financial statement I heard during those 10 days. Not a geopolitical statement, a financial one. The US dollar's reserve currency status, the invisible foundation beneath the value of every dollar in every American bank account and every American portfolio, rests on two pillars. The first pillar is American economic strength. The second pillar is the global perception of American reliability, the belief that America's commitments are credible, that its institutions are stable, that the system it built and anchors will continue operating according to predictable rules. Both pillars are now cracking simultaneously. And I need to stop here and tell you something personal before I show you what that means for your money. In 1982, I sat in an empty office with nothing. I had publicly predicted a depression. I was completely certain I was right. I borrowed $4,000 from my father to pay my family's bills while my wife and 2 young children depended on me. That failure taught me the most important lesson of my career. Not what I got wrong about the economy, what I got wrong about human psychology. I underestimated how long people inside a system will refuse to see that the system is breaking until the breaking is completely undeniable. The people I spoke with in Asia are not inside the American system. They are observing it from outside. And from outside the American system, the breaking is already completely undeniable, not approaching undeniable. Already there. The people inside America are still debating whether the dollar's reserve status is at risk. The people managing capital across Asia have already concluded that it is and are already acting on that conclusion. That gap between what people inside America believe and what people outside America have already concluded is the most important financial gap I observed during those 10 days. And it is a gap that closes at the expense of dollar-denominated assets when it closes. Now let me show you exactly what is happening with China. And this is the revelation I promised you at the halfway point. I said publicly after this trip that Chinese markets look very attractive. I want to make sure you heard that. Ray Dalio, after spending 10 days inside China, said Chinese markets look very attractive. Here is precisely why. And I want to give you the specific numbers because the numbers make this completely undeniable. American stock markets are currently trading at price-to-earnings ratios that exceed the 1929 bubble peak. The S&P 500 trades at approximately 35 times earnings. The largest technology companies trade at 45 to 80 times earnings. Goldman Sachs projects just 3% annual returns from American stocks over the next decade. Vanguard projects approximately 5%. These are projections from the most credible institutional forecasters in the world, and they are projections of near zero real returns from the asset that most American investors are most concentrated in. Chinese markets are trading at approximately 12 to 15 times earnings, less than half the valuation of American markets, and China's economy has grown from 15% of the American economy 2 decades ago to 60 to 70% today. The country whose economy is growing fastest and whose geopolitical influence is expanding most rapidly is trading at less than half the valuation of the country whose economic dominance and geopolitical reliability are both being questioned simultaneously. I found Chinese markets very attractive because the gap between their valuation and their underlying economic trajectory is the widest gap between price and value I have observed in any major market during my entire career. But here is what I need you to understand about what I observed beyond the raw valuation numbers. China is entering what I described publicly as a tribute system era, a period where countries align with Chinese economic influence, not because they are forced to, but because the economic weight of China makes alignment economically rational. During my 10 days inside China, I observed the infrastructure of this realignment being built in real time, trade relationships being reoriented, capital flows being redirected, investment decisions being made based on a worldview in which American economic centrality can no longer be assumed. This is not theoretical, it is operational. And it has direct consequences for the value of American assets relative to the rest of the world that are not yet reflected in American market prices. Now I want to show you something that most Americans completely miss about what a reserve currency transition looks like in the early stages, because this is the mechanism that connects everything I observed in Asia directly to the number in your bank account. When a reserve currency's reliability is questioned by the people who hold it, those holders begin reducing their exposure gradually and quietly, not dramatically, not with announcements, quietly. Central banks reduce their dollar reserves month by month. Countries settle more trade in alternative currencies. Investment decisions that would previously have defaulted to dollar-denominated assets begin considering alternatives. Each individual decision is small. Each one appears manageable. But the cumulative effect of thousands of institutions and governments making the same directional decision simultaneously is a structural reduction in demand for dollars. Reduced demand for dollars means a weaker dollar. A weaker dollar means every import you buy becomes more expensive. Every foreign good, every raw material, every product made with components sourced outside America. A weaker dollar is not an abstract financial event. It is your grocery bill going up, your gas going up, your insurance going up, your cost of living going up at a rate that your income does not match. Quietly, relentlessly, without a single dramatic event that most people would recognize as the cause. The people I spoke with in Asia are not planning to dump dollars dramatically. They are reducing their dollar exposure gradually, consistently, and in ways that their domestic political audiences will never notice or understand. The effect accumulates over months and years. And by the time most ordinary Americans feel the full impact in their cost of living and their purchasing power, the adjustment will already have happened. The window to protect yourself will already have closed. Now let me tell you exactly what to do. Based not on analysis from a distance, based on what I personally observed and what I personally changed in my own positioning as a direct result. Action 1. Build gold exposure to between 10 and 15% of your portfolio immediately. I said this on Bloomberg television directly after returning from this trip. Currency values face real risk. Diversification, liquidity, and gold are what investors need right now. This is not a new recommendation from me, but the urgency behind it increased significantly after what I observed during those 10 days. The reserve currency stress I have been describing for years is more advanced than I fully appreciated before making this trip. Gold has risen 70% in the past 12 months. The forces driving that rise are accelerating, not decelerating. GLD and IAU provide direct gold exposure through any standard brokerage account. Action 2. Introduce meaningful international diversification for the first time. I know most American investors have been rewarded for decades by concentrating in American assets, but that concentration was rational when American economic dominance and American geopolitical reliability were both unquestioned. The people I spoke with in Asia have already concluded that both are now questionable. And when the people who hold 40% of all U.S. Treasury bonds reach that conclusion and begin acting on it gradually, the dollar assets most Americans are concentrated in will feel the consequences. VXUS, the Vanguard Total International Stock ETF, provides broad international diversification at low cost through any standard brokerage account. Action 3. Seriously, consider reducing exposure to the most overvalued American technology stocks. Goldman Sachs projects 3% annual returns from American stocks over the next decade. Vanguard projects 5%. At those return projections, the price being paid for American technology stocks at 45 to 80 times earnings is not justifiable by any conventional investment analysis. And in an environment where dollar weakness adds another layer of real return erosion on top of already inadequate nominal returns, the opportunity cost of holding maximum concentration in American technology at peak valuations is the most expensive financial mistake available to most ordinary investors right now. Action 4. Consider measured exposure to international markets, including emerging markets with China exposure. Not a concentrated bet on China, not a dramatic reallocation. A measured, diversified exposure to markets trading at 12 to 15 times earnings versus the American market trading at 35 times earnings. At those relative valuations, the risk-reward of international diversification has never been more compelling in my career. Broad emerging market ETFs provide this exposure through any standard brokerage account without the concentration risk of individual country or stock selection. I spent 10 days inside China. I came back with a clearer picture of where the world is heading than any report or data analysis could have given me. The perception shift is real. The geopolitical recalibration is operational, not theoretical. The financial implications for dollar-denominated assets are more significant than most American investors understand, and the window to position yourself before those implications become fully priced into markets is measured in months, not years. The United States can no longer be relied on to fight to defend its interests. That is what I heard from every person I spoke with across Asia. And what it means for your money is this: every dollar you own is worth what the world believes it is worth. And the world's belief in the dollar is changing faster than the number in your bank account reflects. Act now. While the window is still open, if this video showed you something about America's financial position that your advisor has never told you, hit that like button right now. Subscribe to this channel because we are tracking every development of this global shift together in real time. And leave one honest comment below. After everything you just heard, what percentage of your portfolio is currently outside America? Write it below. I read every single comment personally. And I will see you in the next video.